Out in the blistering silence of Redwater Gulch, secrets don't stay buried for long. When rancher Eli Maddox uncovers a rusted chest his father warned him about, the past doesn't just return, it explodes into the present. Inside that box lies a confession powerful enough to break a town, expose a generation of hidden betrayal, and awaken enemies who were never truly gone. As the sheriff steps in and the truth unfolds, the quiet little town of Redwater begins to tremble. Neighbors turn suspicious, old fears crawl back from the shadows, and unseen eyes watch from the ridges above. What's inside that chest is only the beginning. And when the first page turns, nothing and no one will remain the same. Stay with the story. The danger is rising, the truth is unraveling, and the next scene will change everything you think you know. The sun sagged low behind the red cliffs, turning the sky into a blazing curtain of gold and blood. Redwater Gulch always felt quiet at dusk, but tonight the silence had a sharp edge to it, like the whole town was holding its breath. Sheriff Colt Dawson reined in his horse near the creek bed, dust swirling around him in slow, ghostly spirals. He spotted Eli Maddox kneeling beside a mound of disturbed earth, sweat running down his brow. A rusty metal chest peeked out from the dirt like a dead thing trying to claw its way up. Colt stepped down, boots thudding against the dry ground. "You dig this up yourself?" he asked. Eli nodded without looking up. His hands were trembling, not from the digging, but something deeper. It was buried under the old willow, same place my father told me never to go near. Colt frowned. "That's not a warning a man gives for nothing." Eli swallowed hard and brushed away more dirt. The chest was heavier than it looked, its sides dented and its lock covered in a strange, snaking emblem he hadn't seen since he was a kid. The sight of it made his stomach twist. A few townsfolk had already gathered, drawn by the sight of the sheriff and the promise of something unusual. They whispered among themselves, eyes darting between Eli and the chest as though expecting it to burst open on its own. Eli finally tried the lock. It didn't budge. His breath grew uneven. "My father told me if I ever saw this mark again, to run." Colt stepped closer, voice steady but firm. "Eli, whatever this is, it's time we finish it." The words hit Eli with a force he didn't expect. For a moment he saw memories. His father sitting on the porch, warning him in hushed tones, the fear in the old man's eyes. The night Eli found him lifeless with no explanation. He tightened his grip on the axe beside him. Colt's voice dropped lower. "Now do it." Eli lifted the axe, feeling all the weight of the past in his arms. He hesitated only long enough for one last shaky breath, then brought it down hard. The impact rang out across the creek bed like a gunshot. The lock shattered, scattering rust into the air. A hush fell over the crowd. Eli slowly lifted the lid. The hinges screeched, the sound slicing through the thick silence, and then his face drained of color. Inside wasn't treasure. There were no weapons, no outlaw maps. Instead, there was a journal, his father's journal, wrapped in a blood-stained cloth, a bundle of gold coins marked with a symbol he had hoped never to see again, and a letter sealed in wax, addressed to the town as if it were a confession delivered from beyond the grave. Eli stumbled back, breath trembling. No, this can't be real. Colt leaned over his shoulder, eyes narrowing as he saw the same emblem burned into the corner of the letter. Whatever lay buried in that chest wasn't just a secret from Eli's past. It was a secret that could rip the entire town apart, and Redwater Gulch felt the first tremor of it that very moment. Eli ran his thumb across the cracked leather cover of the old journal, feeling the weight of years settle into his bones. The air smelled of rust, dust, and something older, something forgotten. People leaned in closer, their shadows stretching long across the dirt like reaching hands. When he finally opened the journal, a faint scent of smoke escaped, as though the memories inside had been scorched into the pages. The handwriting was shaky, jagged, his father's last days captured in fading ink. Colt stood beside him, eyes narrowed, studying every word. "What does it say first?" he asked. Eli swallowed hard. He wrote about the night of the raid, but not the way we were told. He turned the page and the crowd hushed. His father described a secret meeting behind the abandoned mine. A group of townsmen gathered under moonlight, speaking in whispers, passing around gold coins burned with the mark of 2 crossing snakes. They had struck a deal with an outlaw band, gold in exchange for looking the other way. But something went wrong. The outlaws attacked early, chaos erupted, people died, and the circle silenced the truth to save themselves. Eli's voice cracked. He wrote that he tried to stop them, that he wanted to tell the sheriff, But the circle threatened our family if he opened his mouth. Colt's jaw tightened, anger simmering behind his calm exterior. And the letter? Eli reached into the chest and took the brittle envelope addressed to the town. He unfolded it carefully. The paper felt like it would crumble any second. The message was blunt, carved by guilt and fear. Redwater was betrayed from within. If you read this, the circle has returned or its bloodline still lives. Beware those who carry the mark. A collective gasp swept the crowd. People began tugging at sleeves, whispering rapidly, eyes flicking across familiar faces they suddenly didn't trust. A ranch woman stepped forward. What does it mean their bloodline still lives? Are we in danger? Eli shook his head slowly. I don't know. But my father believed the circle made a pact that if anyone dug up the truth, the descendants would finish what their fathers started. A chill ran up Colt's spine. So we're not just dealing with a secret. We're dealing with something that was meant to outlive them. Eli nodded, staring down at the journal like it was a ticking fuse. There's one last entry, he whispered. The night before he died, my father wrote, if the truth is uncovered, they will come. Protect the town, even if it means standing against those you thought you knew. The words felt like a distant thunder rumbling just beneath the surface of Redwater. People exchanged terrified glances. Every family, every neighbor suddenly felt like a suspect. The air thickened with fear, suspicion, and the sense that something unseen had already begun to move in the shadows of the gulch. And Eli understood one thing with painful clarity. The past hadn't been buried. It had been waiting. The moment the old man's words cut through the air, a shiver rolled through the gathered crowd. Mothers pulled their children closer. Ranch hands exchanged wary glances, and even the horses tied along the posts stopped, uneasily as if sensing the tension thickening like storm clouds. Eli felt his heartbeat thundering in his chest. A circle, not one man, not one betrayal. An entire group hiding in plain sight for decades. His father had died keeping this secret, and now the truth was clawing its way back to life. Colt stepped forward, voice steady but eyes sharp. Name them, he demanded. If you want justice, it starts with the truth. But the old man shook his head. They ain't all alive, but their sons, their daughters, their blood is still here. His voice cracked, and they promised the circle would rise again if that chest was ever opened. A murmur rippled through the crowd like a rising tide. People turned toward one another, suspicion replacing trust. Friends who shared meals, families who lived side by side. Suddenly each face looked unfamiliar, dangerous. A gun cocked somewhere in the back. Colt spun around. Put it down. No one fires a shot today. Eli stepped forward, lifting the journal high. My father wrote this so the town could heal, not so we'd tear each other apart. But the damage was already spreading. One woman burst into tears. A rancher backed away slowly, muttering that he knew something was wrong all along. The schoolteacher grabbed her husband's arm, whispering that their family needed to leave Redwater tonight. The old man raised a shaking finger toward the hills. They're watching, he said. They always have been. Eli and Colt turned at the same time. Up on the ridge, just for a second, a silhouette flickered against the morning light. A lone rider, and the glint of a rifle scope catching the sun before vanishing behind the rocks. The crowd gasped. Someone screamed. Colt's voice was low, controlled. This ain't over, he whispered to Eli. Whatever your father started, we're about to finish. Eli nodded, jaw tight, eyes burning with determination. For Redwater, he said. The town stood frozen, half in fear, half in the realization that their lives, their history and their safety were now tangled in a secret older and darker than any of them imagined, and somewhere on the ridge unseen eyes watched, waiting for the next move.